through storms, unshaken, unbowed. Through trials and verdicts, still standing proud. A titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it loud. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key. Make the big switch. Power to the people. Time to teach the rich. Legal battles can't hold him. He's moving on. With plans so bold, from dusk till dawn. He's rewriting the rules. A new dawn's day. From the hands of the few to the people's way. Say goodbye to all chains, embrace the new. A financial revolution, fair and true. For the workers, the dreamers, side by side. In Trump's new era, let freedom rise. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key. Make the big switch. Power to the people. Time to teach the rich. He's a fighter.
Welcome, everyone, to the Crazy Cryptonaut Show. I am Zester, and thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope everyone's having an excellent start to the week. We've got a lot going on in the world. Crypto markets have bounced up slightly, and so we're going to jump into that, look at it a little bit. Of course, ongoing conflict across the Middle East continues to be the major influence on a lot of the markets, whether it makes sense really or not. And so we're going to get into that. And also, I don't know what happened on Friday of last week. We had gone through and we talked about XLM and Stellar and some of the other things on the news. And essentially right after the stream, it appears that anyone who tried to see the stream in a recorded fashion was not able to. I think, having gone through and looked at all the settings, that was my fault. I had been clicking some buttons, and apparently one of the buttons I clicked meant that if I didn't have any storage space on StreamYard, it was going to try and delete the live stream. And so not certain what happened there, but I've got that fixed. And so today's stream should be perfectly viewable in recorded form after the live ends. And on account of that, though, for those that didn't get to watch live on Friday of last week, I am going to do like a quick recap of essentially the XLM and Stellar news, the things that were exciting, just in a much more condensed fashion today. And so with all of that said, let's go through and start saying some good mornings before we jump into all of it. Good morning, Mile High Trish. I hope you had an awesome weekend. And yeah, I know you were telling me you're going to have a very busy one, but it sounds exciting. All the garden talks and all of that, Trish. I wish I got to come hang out. We really need to see if you could bring a GoPro or something like that and record some of your garden talks, Trish. I have a feeling a lot of folks would benefit from them. And then what's up, Frank? Good morning, man. Good morning, Crazy Chester. Crazy Chester. YouTube shows that I'm number one on the thumbs up. Woohoo! Hey, thank you so much, man, for doing that. Good morning, Pocket. An important one before we start jumping into all of it. Please do remember that the content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes, not intended to provide financial advice. Please consult with a financial professional before making investment decisions. Thank you so much, Trish, for that one. I I really do. It seems like such a crazy thing to have to read each time. It just seems like such a crazy thing, but I know that it is important. It helps to make certain that when it comes down to it, that YouTube and those type of things can't go ahead and flag something that is obviously educational as something else. And so, thank you so much for making certain I do it. And my apologies to everyone for the wasted 30 seconds each stream on it, but it's important. Frank Zester, you know what they say? S happens. LOL. Absolutely, Frank. And nowadays, it seems like technology is advancing at such a rapid pace, but it's not necessarily becoming more user friendly in certain fashions as they're trying to go through and speed run integrating artificial intelligence into everything. There've been some hiccups along the road. Good morning, Doug, coming from Pennsylvania. Doug, in Pennsylvania, I have been hearing this morning that there are crazy storms going up and down the East Coast. I know my brother down in North Carolina, Riley, he has tornadoes touching down all around him in the Piedmont Triad area. I heard even Pennsylvania was having some tornado watches currently ongoing. And so please, guys, stay safe along the East Coast. While I was chatting with Riley just earlier, he had the wind turn into the sound of a train coming down the road at him. Luckily, it passed, but and didn't come towards him in the house, but stay safe out there. Some crazy weather. Good morning, Terry. Good morning, Walford from Indianapolis. What's up, Anakin? Oh, hey there, Deborah. I hope you're having an awesome morning. Charlene, got to cover your butt. It's just some of the stupidest things, though, Charlene, but it's true. It's true. It has to be said, whether it makes any sense or not. All right, Anakin, there was a person on your dad's cast today stating an XRP push from $1.34 to $1.49 is hardly a push. Anakin, I would agree. We did get a little bit of exciting news on that front. But yeah, when it comes down to it, I'll be excited when I see XRP back above $2. That's when I'll know we've gotten the right news. But right now, nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. It's laughable when you go through and you try to figure out or try to even draw correlations between different markets and the price changes. Because, right now, the current little bump in cryptocurrency prices, that is being correlated with easing of tensions in the Middle East and the announcement that the United States will be allowing both Russian and potentially Iranian oil tankers to travel safely in order to try and stabilize the global oil price market. That is for some reason being associated as the reason that the cryptocurrency markets are currently bouncing upwards. Try to figure that one out for me. Doesn't make any sense. They're not even close to related. There's absolutely zero correlation between Bitcoin and global oil prices when it comes down to something like the Strait of Hormuz. But hey, that's the world we live in right now. All right. Good morning, Hawaii. Good morning. Good morning. Aloha, I suppose I should say. Anakin, Blackhawk, Colorado here. We need 14 feet of snow for this horrible winter to be back to a regular snowpack for the season. Wow. Well, Anakin, it seems like the East Coast picked up a lot of that snow this year. Raggedy Sue, good morning from Liverpool, Pennsylvania. We're under a tornado watch until 7 p.m. That's what I was hearing. Jeremy was saying up there in Pennsylvania area, they were under watch. Riley down in North Carolina, he was already at warning. So the tornadoes had already touched down around him in the Piedmont Triad area. Close enough for him to be hearing the train sound. Doug, they're saying this afternoon here, but not yet. Yeah, absolutely. No, stay safe out there on that one. Safest room of the house. Riley and I were sitting there talking earlier today, trying to think through which was the safest room in the house for him. We were going through that one. Yeah, Anakin, exactly. At or above, for speaking about XRP, at or above $3 again. That's a push. Absolutely. Absolutely. And until we break out. Franco, I'm just waiting for the BlackRock ETF and trying to figure out why they haven't filed yet. Frank, so many of those ETFs, and as they go through the approval process, we end up with so little visibility on that process. The entire regulatory process of going through, especially on account of it being the SEC that has a large hand in it, it is lacking in extreme fashions. It is lacking in transparency. And so for all we know, Frank, some of these things could be a lot further along, or they could be far less along than we want them to be. That's not something that we definitely need to change going into the future. We need far more transparency coming from these regulatory bodies on why they're making these decisions, why certain projects are having such a hard time. Yep. Yeah. Anakin, yeah, they all took it from us. Yeah, we did. The East Coast took a lot of the snow, it seems, this year. It was kind of unprecedented, at least in all of my memories from the States. We've had nor'easters in North Carolina that would have resulted in a fairly similar winter. But nor'easters are an extremely unique weather event. Nor'easters only occur in one place on the entire planet because of the Gulf Stream and the overall geography of the East Coast, right off the coast of Virginia and North Carolina. Nor'easters would result in a winter like this. But from what I've been hearing, this wasn't caused by nor'easters this last winter. But all right. We'll quit talking about weather. Let's go ahead and jump into the articles for today. First of all, we'll go through the market just to see where everything is currently sitting at. And then I'm going to jump in and quickly do that XLM update. Since something did go on with that video on Friday, I do want to give that short little XLM update, far more condensed. And then we'll jump into the rest of the articles for the day. But yes, markets are looking green as of exactly this moment. Bitcoin sitting at $73,576. XRP actually just hit $1.50, up 1.7% in the past hour. Market overall looking a little bit healthier, and we actually moved above the average moving average for Bitcoin, indicating a little bit more of a bullish sentiment, primarily from the numbers. The money flowing into Bitcoin in the past few days has been institutional. ETFs have been seeing very, very large inflows. So it appears as if institutional money is actually the cause of this little crypto bump. They're saying that's because of easing tensions regarding the Strait of Hormuz in the Middle East. You guys already know my opinion. I'm still trying to figure out how necessarily Bitcoin's price is directly correlated with oil flows in the Strait of Hormuz. In all honesty, I view it as being entirely illogical. Bitcoin should honestly, in my mind, based off of everything, how it's built, what it functions for, how it operates, how the entire cryptocurrency market operates, instability regarding a shipping channel really should not be viewed as negative information or negative news for crypto. But we live in an interconnected world. The same institutional traders that are heavily invested in the stock market and heavily invested in US Treasury bonds, heavily invested in the oil industry, are also invested in cryptocurrency. And so there's a lot more to dig into than just to say, hey, the Strait of Hormuz is now open again. Bitcoin's price is about to fly. That's an extreme oversimplification. But to a degree, it kind of works that way. Anakin, glad to see XRP still sitting at number 4. XRP has been getting stronger and stronger when it comes down to that one. Stronger and stronger. Of course we do. At this point, BNB has been doing fairly well throughout all of the market turmoil. And so, yeah, it is a tight race in terms of that 4th slot. XRP at 91,940 million, and BNB sitting at 91,980 million on current market capitalization. Long run, XRP is going to just absolutely smash BNB. But hey, BNB, what is BNB? Anakin, oh, hey, I'm glad you asked that one. BNB is actually the coin that operates the Binance Smart Chain. That's the BEP20. So just so everyone knows, a little bit of a distraction, but it's an important little thing to know and understand. Binance is the largest exchange on the planet by volume. Primarily, we have been denied access to Binance since somewhere around 2018. I got kicked out in 2019. This was during the first Trump administration. This was because of the SEC and their ongoing litigation of both Binance and XRP, etc. It is the largest exchange. It operates a blockchain, an entire blockchain that is actually a clone of the Ethereum blockchain. And so it's an EVM compatible chain. Binance, BNB, can very easily be viewed as essentially the same idea as Ethereum on the Ethereum blockchain. It's what you pay in order to send tokens. It's what you pay as your gas fees. It's the primary native coin of the blockchain. But Binance's chain is operated by the company. And with BNB, you get lower trading fees on the Binance platform and a variety of other benefits. It's a very interesting chain because it's like Ethereum in that it is Ethereum. It's the Ethereum code, but it's operated differently. And so Ethereum allows anybody who has Ethereum to be a part of the mining process, to run a node, to validate on the blockchain. Anybody can do it. You got Ethereum, congratulations, you're in. Binance is different. Binance has combined the buildability of Ethereum, the ability to build projects on it, to launch tokens, to build entire decentralized applications. They took that ability from Ethereum and then they combined it with the centralization mechanism, the consensus mechanism of XRP or XLM. And so on Binance, you're able to build projects like on Ethereum. You're able to build all these different tokens and all these different decentralized DeFi apps and all kinds of stuff. But you're able to send transactions at extremely low costs because there's only but so many validators. It's not near as competitive of a market. And on account of that, the Binance chain has become fairly popular for folks who want to start projects, want to do things in a cheaper way. It's a lot cheaper to operate on. And so, Frank, sounds like XRP and XLM similar chain. It's taken the Ethereum code, and so it's an EVM blockchain. It is pretty much just Ethereum. It's pretty much just their technology. And they've just said, hey, we're going to change little parts of this technology and we're going to make it a little more centralized in terms of how it's controlled. And that's going to allow us to maintain very low transaction fees. In the long term, honestly, Binance is going to have to kind of pick a lane on that one. But BNB is very, very powerful because of how it operates. BNB has a constant burn mechanism that is operated by the exchange. And so when people use BNB to pay their exchange fees on the Binance exchange, the largest on the planet, that BNB is burnt. And so BNB constantly burns, constantly is deflationary. And so it has an extremely strong tokenomic structure. Tokenomics, we talked about this word a long time ago, but tokenomics is essentially the term that has been created for what's the best way to explain this? For the mechanisms behind a blockchain. So the tokenomics of a cryptocurrency would be things like how it operates from a technical standpoint. And so the tokenomics of BNB would be, okay, we have got a circulating supply of 136,357,909, 136 million, I should say. You've got a max supply of 200 million on it. And then we've got these other structures inside of it, like burn mechanisms, how it pays fees, how essentially it moves around. The economics of the token, in all honesty, might be the simplest way to go about describing it, but I would assume that probably some folks would give me a hard time for that oversimplification. And the tokenomic structure of BNB is very, very strong because it is constantly burning and being reduced. It's built into how it operates. At some point, we need to do a deep dive on it. So are they still trying to get out of the Swift system? We are on a fast track to getting out of the Swift system, Anakin. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, though. I know we've got some more questions, but I got distracted there. Let's do the XLM update real quick. All right. We had gone through this one on Friday, guys, but I'm going to just jump straight into it. Stellar is sitting currently at 17 cents a pop. It's actually up about over a penny. About over a penny from when we talked about it on Friday. And the very exciting part for Stellar is that Stellar has started to make a lot more announcements. They're talking about their partnerships. They're going through a lot of different approvals. We've got ETFs coming. We had the launch on the CME actually just recently of Stellar, and we've been seeing very, very positive amounts of dollars coming in from institutional traders. This overall has kind of changed the narrative on Stellar. Stellar has, for the past many, many years, and I know that for some folks out there that are big Lumens fans, this might be a little upsetting, but in my opinion, they have dropped the ball for many years. We have not gotten a lot of announcements in terms of major partnerships. We've not gotten a lot of forward progress. And 2026 is the year of crypto companies turning into companies. Actually, we've got an article that we're going to look at later today where the headline says it's time for crypto to start putting on their business suits, essentially. And it is. This is the year, this is the time, and Stellar has started to actually do that, which is very, very positive. As a matter of fact, I was planning on, if Stellar did not start making announcements, did not start putting their foot forward and trying to claim some of the future market capitalization, some of the future market share of the real world asset tokenization market, I intended on selling my Stellar. And well, it appears as if Stellar understood that they were at that point in time. And so we've been getting lots and lots of announcements. I'm going to go through it in a much shorter fashion here. We have seen just recently a fairly substantial recovery overall for XLM, forming a golden cross on its hourly chart, typically a very, very bullish signal coming from a technical analysis standpoint. But in all honesty, the more exciting things are the DTC, naming XLM as a digital liquidity token for its upcoming tokenization platform expected to launch in H2 of 2026. This marks deep institutional validation. DTC is a core U.S. security settlement infrastructure. Also, MasterCard has included the Stellar Development Foundation in its Global Crypto Partner Program, and BitGet Wallet has integrated XLM for stablecoin payments. Outside of this, overall numbers in terms of total value locked has now brought Stellar to actually sitting in a position above the Solana blockchain, about $1.2 billion worth sitting on the Stellar blockchain, as opposed to around 800 million sitting on Solana. Solana is 10 times larger than Stellar in regards to market capitalization at an absolute minimum. Stellar sits somewhere around a $5 billion to $6 billion market cap. Solana sits somewhere around $50 to $60 billion. And that means that Stellar is punching far, far above its weight class in regards to tokenized real world assets. Other partnerships that continue to expand and more dollars are flowing into would be XLM and Ondo Finance in regards to tokenized US Treasury bonds. Those markets continue to expand. At this point in time, on the real world asset tokenization race, XLM is actually sitting in the top 5, very, very easily in the top 5. And that's a change. Also, we are seeing Sorobon, the decentralized trading platform for Stellar, is continuing to attract more and more dollars faster than any of the other blockchains, faster than Cardano, faster than Solana. It's yet to compete with Ethereum, but Ethereum is kind of the big dog when it comes down to real world assets and tokenized stocks and things of that nature at this point in time. And so overall, there's a lot to be excited about. There's also coming very soon the zero knowledge update. And so this will provide privacy on the Stellar blockchain that is set to occur sometime in Q2 of 2026, as well as a few other major technical updates. View these as like software updates. You know, it's the difference between Microsoft 11 and Microsoft 12, except in this situation, it's actually an upgrade, and it's not just Bill Gates trying to get another $50 out of you. All right. And so that would be pretty much the TLDR, the short and dirty version of what we went through on Friday. A lot has changed in terms of the Stellar Foundation. Stellar is starting to put out updates. Stellar is starting to push more partnerships. As we've talked about before, I don't think that Stellar has just been sitting around not doing anything for the past 5 or 6 years. I think Stellar has just very wisely spent the past 5 or 6 years keeping their head down and trying to avoid getting into the crosshairs of the SEC. Remember, XLM and XRP are very, very similar in how they operate. They are extremely similar in how they operate. And so Stellar wisely saw what was happening to XRP and said, you know what? Let's just keep our heads down. I think that is really the best explanation or the best excuse for why Stellar has been so quiet in the past years. Now, with the Trump administration, with framework coming into place, now Stellar is able to actually start moving forward. And so I'm feeling far better about my XLM, in all honesty, right now than I was feeling in December of 2025. December of 2025, I was looking at my XLM and saying, why the heck have I continued to hold this? Now, I'm far, far happier with the information coming out. It's really just a matter of communication, transparency on that front, and the knowledge that they are taking this seriously. They're not going to try and rest on their laurels of saying, hey, we've got 5,000 transactions per second. I'm so tired of hearing those numbers. Those numbers mean nothing unless you're actually processing 5,000 transactions per second. You're capable of doing it. Woo-hoo. Do you want a sticker? Is anyone doing it? That's what I'm looking for. And Stellar is starting to make that type of progress and those types of announcements. So let's now jump back over to the rest of the news for the day. Of course, we've got to talk about it. When it comes down to it, we're just not going to be able to shut up about the Clarity Act until the thing is done. And then we're going to probably be talking about the Clarity Act for a year after the darn thing gets signed, because we're going to be breaking down the hundreds of pages of regulations and framework and how it affects the market in real time. We're not going to be able to avoid it. Right now, though, we have gotten some information. One of these little drops is particularly interesting. It's also particularly concerning. And so let's just go ahead and jump into it. Clarity Act risks handing crypto to centralized players. This comes from an announcement by an interview from a Gnosis executive. For those that are not aware, Gnosis Wallet and what Gnosis provides is essentially it's very much, it's used by corporations primarily. I've used it and helped set it up. It's used for multi-signature wallets, but they've also expanded beyond that into a lot of other things. They got hands in a lot of different cookie jars in terms of blockchain development. They're a long-standing company, very well respected in many ways. And well, what we have heard on that front is that he has got a fear regarding the Clarity Act. And so, regulatory provisions outlined in the Clarity Act threaten to give large financial institutions control over crypto, according to Dr. Frederick Ernst, co-founder of the Gnosis blockchain protocol. Regulations in the Clarity Act assume that activity must pass through centralized intermediaries, which risks consolidating crypto rails in the hands of a few entrenched players. Now, here we get the quote, blockchain's real breakthrough was not just a financial infrastructure. It was the ability for users themselves to become owners of the networks they rely on. Absolutely. That's the great opportunity. That's the new system. That is what we have been looking for, praying for, hoping for half a century. When it really comes down to it at this point in time, the ability for us to actually own the financial rails. Now, if this activity is pushed back through institutional intermediaries, users risk becoming customers, renting access to financial technology once again, rather than stakeholders in it. The challenge is ensuring regulatory clarity does not unintentionally undermine that ownership model. Now, despite the bill's shortcomings, Clarity Act does clarify regulatory jurisdiction over crypto between the SEC and the CFTC, as well as protects peer-to-peer transactions and self-custody, Ernst says. However, the failure of the market structure bill to adequately protect open, permissionless blockchain rails and decentralized finance protocols risks bringing all the same points of failure of the legacy financial system to crypto. I very, very, very much like how Miss Ernst words this, and I think that she digs directly to the major issue, and that's the reason it's being held up. That's what this argument is about. That's why the banking lobbies are fighting so hard in order to delay it. That's why they have so many concerns with these different stablecoin yields and things of that nature, is because that is going to take away their centralized power, their control over the financial system, their access to Federal Reserve master accounts, their access directly to the United States Treasury. All of those things they're gatekeeping from cryptocurrency, and it's a large part of why they're fighting so hard on stablecoin yield. And I found this to be very interesting when taking the context of her statement, what she's going through and describing, and then coming over to the entire conversation on the Clarity Act. because the Clarity Act hits roadblocks as stablecoin fights drag on. Yeah, we know that. But what if that's not the entire conversation? And so, crypto executive sounds the alarm. The Clarity Act won't pass next month, and stablecoin rewards aren't the only problem slowing things down. And so this was the article, guys, that I went ahead and gave a little forewarning. This one's a little doom and gloom, but we've got to take things from every different side and consider their opinions and their breakdown and see if there's any validity to it. And so, an anonymous executive on this one, guys, that means it's always questionable. An anonymous executive who works at a major digital asset firm said lawmakers can't agree on much beyond the basic stablecoin stuff everyone's been talking about. There's other issues buried in the bill that nobody's really discussing yet, and these problems could kill the whole thing. The legislative calendar doesn't leave much room for error, with Congress facing a packed schedule through April. If that window is missed, the executive thinks that the Clarity Act is basically dead until next year. Stablecoin rewards remain messy, no clear path forward. And so, this one, of course, anonymous. No part of anonymous executive sounds, sounds like something that you can take to the bank. But I do think when you look at, if you take these two articles and you kind of smash together essentially the overall conversation, what these executives are telling us about is that there's more to this discussion in the back rooms than just the fact that the banks believe that the stablecoin yield is what's going to kill them and collapse the American financial system. They're fighting for more than that. They're fighting to maintain their control over the centralization of access to the financial rails. And that it's not a matter necessarily of just stablecoins and yields, but the fact that this is going to remove their ability to gatekeep access to the SWIFT system, to the Federal Reserve. And that's, well, I can understand that. Ultimately, there is a lot more to the Clarity Act than just stablecoin yields. The banking lobby have positioned themselves as that being the major issue. But essentially what this anonymous executive is saying is that the conversation is even more nuanced than that simplification. It's not just stablecoin yield. It's also the banks essentially going through and fighting for the ability to continue gatekeeping the system, that they're extremely upset with things like the fact that we just saw Kraken gain access to a Federal Reserve account. They want to stop that as well. They don't want cryptocurrency companies to be able to become banks. Banks want to maintain a monopoly on banking. And as we've talked, centralized exchanges and banks, that's the same thing with two different names, except one is ready for the new financial system and one isn't. All right, let's see what questions I've missed, and then we will jump right back into it because I've actually got a cool one on the XRP side that I want to talk about. All right. Robbie Bug, Zester, how many people wish they bought Bitcoin at $1? I wish I had, every dollar I owned had been there. XRP is an improved version of Bitcoin. Patience is what's needed, or people will cry about selling XRP too early. Great show again. Well, thank you so much, Robbie. And when it comes down to it, patience is the greatest virtue. And I would absolutely agree. Nothing has fundamentally changed. And so really the only thing to maintain is patience. If something changes fundamentally and another blockchain comes out and it dominates the real world asset tokenization market, then we have something to worry about. Until then, we've got a very clear path. It's just a matter of not getting overly worried about picking the day. we know we're going. We know where we're going, and the markets continue to grow in that fashion. We're receiving incredibly over the top, nonstop positive information and intelligence when it comes to us progressing towards the new system. On that front, we continue to never really get bad news. We get delays, we get roadblocks and road bumps, but nothing has changed in terms of where we're going. Franco, we're in the calm before the storm. The future looks awesome. Absolutely. We have all the opportunities going forward. This is going to be our game to lose, in my opinion. And maybe I shouldn't say our game to lose. Maybe I should say make this a little bit more macro, a little bit more ideological. But when it comes down, the side of good knows exactly where we're going, and it looks very good. We just need good to win. And I don't have too much doubt on that one in the long run. Yep. Anakin, so we will be able to become our own banks at some point, depending on how deep your bags are. Well, Anakin, that's the great thing about this technology. It doesn't matter how much you have. You can become the bank with $10. Yes, you're not going to be retiring because you get to start earning the interest that the banks do on $10. That's not going to be, hey, I put $10 in. Let's go ahead and start looking at houses in Aruba. No, but you are going to be able to take over the role of the bank regardless of your financial situation. And so, Anakin, that's what's so exciting about it. Yeah, if you got a deep enough bag and you've got enough of it, maybe you'll get to start your own operation. You'll be able to be your absolutely 100%. It'll be, Anakin Bank LLC. But even for folks that are just sitting there and are going to be late to the game, buying $10 or $20, or just participating in small ways, you're still going to essentially get to take over the role of ownership. When you own a cryptocurrency, you own a share. That's really what you bought. You didn't just buy a unit in order to be exchanged back and forth. You bought a share of ownership over that blockchain. If you own 0.00001 Bitcoin or more zeros, add as many zeros in there as you want, you are a partial owner of that blockchain. You own the infrastructure. You own the bank. You may not own a lot of the bank, but you do own it. And that is something that is going to require an entire shift in how people view things and think about it. When you hold a US dollar, you do not own a share of the United States. You don't. Because if that's a share of the United States, terrorist groups also exchange US dollars for goods. Are terrorist groups partial owners of the United States? It's not the same. It's going to require a shift in thought. It's like owning a stock and a gold token and a dollar all at the same time. There's aspects of all three. Crazy Chester, what's your take on Ripple buying back some of XRP? Crazy Chester, we need to see it. That we need to see Ripple figuring out how to control its inflation. When I say that, what do I mean? What I mean is that XRP remains in an inflationary state. And so there are 61,227,000,000 XRP in circulating supply. That circulating supply is how the market cap is figured out. That's how we know that it's $1.50, et cetera, et cetera. But we have a total supply of 99,985,000,000. What happens each month? Escrow counts release some. And so this number, the circulating supply, continues to rise. Ultimately, XRP could counter that problem a variety of different ways. They could buy those tokens, like what you say, Crazy Chester. They could buy them. They could buy those back essentially from the escrow holders each month when they are released, and in that way stabilize the overall price of XRP. They could also look to buy from us. They could look to issue a buyback from the average holders. Those are already in circulating supply. That I think is unlikely. I think that is unlikely because that would not be to the benefit of Ripple Labs. Ripple Labs would most likely benefit to the largest degree by actually stabilizing the tokens that are entering the market. And so instead of targeting buying tokens that are already in circulating supply, XRP would both benefit as a company and we would benefit as holders most by it actually tackling this problem. Because every month, about 1 billion XRP could potentially enter the circulating supply. It doesn't always. The escrow accounts are different each month. There's a different amount being released. And also, Ripple Labs, the company, each month receives tokens, coins, from this max supply, that 99 billion. They receive some of those and they then sell those in order to generate operational funds for the company. Those are the things that could be most easily tackled. And when they are tackled, we're going to really be able to see the price of XRP break loose. One of the biggest reasons that XRP has such a hard time increasing in value is because of exactly this. Because every month, more new XRP enters the circulating supply. And that is not what people like to see. That's inflation. It's inflation in the simplest fashion. And so that would be the biggest win, in my opinion, Crazy Chester. The biggest win would be them buying these tokens when they hit market. Don't let them hit market. Because when they hit market, those people are going to sell to recoup their funds. And that means they're going to drop the price of XRP. Every month, we get hit with a price drop. And it's because of those escrow accounts releasing funds and because of XRP looking to generate more operational funds. We need XRP to stop doing that. If those were managed to be handled, then I think we would have a lot easier time seeing our XRP get to where it needs to, where it's going. Robbie Buck, the difference between being rich or poor is patience in the crypto world. Absolutely. It's patience and keeping emotions out of the conversation when you're making decisions. Nice. Anakin, Tangum Wallet, a lot of folks. I'm all crazy about my Ledger wallet, but a lot of folks have been very, very happy with the Tangum. I've heard some folks had some issues, but it seems like the vast majority are big fans. All right, Zester, have you heard of Karate Combat app? Are you buying bet H-bar? No, I have not, Anakin. I'll have to check that one out. I'll get Karate Combat pulled up over here so that I can go check that one out after the stream today. Does the Epicenter LLC, Deborah, does the public have access to the Clarity Act document as it stands right now? What we have is what passed in the House of Representatives. And so we know what passed in the House of Representatives and what state the bill was in at that point in time. And we can actually go directly over to congress.gov in order to go through that one. And so for anyone who does want to be able to go through, I will toss that in to the chat right now, the direct link to the government website. And so this is where we know as of this point. Remember, compromises and changes have been ongoing. We continue to receive some information. You can actually go over to the Senate Banking Committee. They put out some information on it, as well as Senate Agricultural Committee put out some information on it. They're a little bit more of an indication of where the compromises are going. But if you just want the full bill as it passed the House, that would be it right there. The whole point of crypto is that you're the bank. Absolutely. The whole point of this entire thing is for us to take ownership over our finances, ownership over our data, ownership over our financial futures. We are supposed to be becoming the banks. And that's why it's so important how these bills work out and any of these different frameworks that allow for these centralized authorities or the banks to take control. It is very concerning. It is counter to the entire reason that we're doing all of this. And so it's worth fighting. And I don't think that battle is going to end. They're going to fight tooth and nail until the absolute final battle. Until the lady sings at the very end. Frank, just my opinion, the banking lobby and all lobbying should be outlawed. Maybe we could see some progress in this country. Absolutely. Absolutely. The entire idea of lobbying, in all honesty, should have been built around the idea of really ideological platforms, not corporations. And so that one's a difficult one, Frank, because we need the ability to be able to approach our lawmakers and have our opinions be heard. But we need to get rid of the money being the reason that these things happen. Absolutely. The financial side of lobbying is what needs cut out. We still need to be able to lobby our Congress members, but we need the financial strings of lobbying to be taken out of the conversation. Because in the way it works right now, it's not how it was intended. Ultimately, we were intended to be able to go to our local elected officials. We were intended to be the voice of the people, and they were intended to be the voice of us. And now they're the voice of the corporations that have the most money. At Liminal, everyone needs to read the white paper and have AI explain it to them if necessary. On a lot of these, it is. The white papers and how these blockchains work is really where you can get the best understanding of why you are putting your money. Why is this important? Why is it going to succeed? But Liminal, white papers are very, very, very dense and very technical documents. And so, yeah, the AI explanation, I think, is a good idea. Explain it like a fifth grader. I ask AI to go through and explain it to me like a fifth grader many times when it comes down to the different technical white papers. Go over and read the Ethereum white paper. Have fun. No part of that is an enjoyable afternoon read. You are going to learn a lot about different coding languages if you hope to be able to genuinely understand what it's doing. Raggedy Sue, I just purchased a Ledger Nano S wallet. Was that a good choice? Absolutely, Raggedy. Absolutely. That is what I use. I use Ledger Nano S Pluses. The only thing I would say here, Raggedy, is with the Ledger Nano S, keep in mind you're going to need to be able to plug it in order to access your funds. It has a small screen. I'm happy with those things. I do all of my work with a hardware wallet while on the computer. I love the fact that my Nano S, the second I unplug that thing from the computer, she dead. There is no way to communicate with it. There is no way for someone to access my stuff. There's no Bluetooth connection. There's just no point of failure besides me. I am the only point of failure. And so, Raggedy Sue, I think you made the perfect choice on that one. The only question that I would ask Sue is, where did you buy it? The only reason I ask that is because sometimes people will go and they'll buy it on eBay or they'll go buy it from some random guy on Amazon. That's the only thing that I would watch out for, Raggedy Sue. But that's a very unique situation. Yep. Frank, when Ripple becomes a bank, won't Ripple use the escrow as a bank? Absolutely. Absolutely. And on that front, Ripple is going to get full banking licenses. Ripple is going to get access to Federal Reserve master accounts. I have no doubt on that front. If Kraken has gotten it, yeah, it's happening. It's happening. Oh, Raggedy Sue, if you got it from, absolutely. No, you are perfectly set then, Raggedy Sue. You have nothing to worry about at all on that one because you got it directly from the factory. And so, absolutely, Raggedy Sue, you are good to go. Just remember, as you are getting it set up, Sue, that you're going to have those 24 words, that secret phrase. Remember, those words are only for you, Sue. They are for no one else. If the president calls you, he is not allowed to have those words. No one on this planet is allowed to have those words besides you, Sue. And so just remember, as you set up your ledger, when you get to those 24 words, those secret words, do not let anyone on this planet have them. I don't, if your husband, your significant other, your brother, your sister, you better make certain that anybody that has access to those words you trust with your life. And so I know that seems like something to be scared of. It's really not. It's simple. Just remember, when you write them down, if someone tries to call you and say, hey, someone's stealing your money, I need those 24 words right now. The person trying to steal your money is that person on the phone telling you that. There's no way for you to lose access to your crypto if you do not ever give anyone access to those words. And so, Sue, just remember that. It is a private endeavor. And beyond that, Raggedy Sue, remember, whenever you start in crypto and you're sending transactions, and so right after you've gotten that hardware wallet set up, send test transactions. Send $1, send 50 cents. Once you've then confirmed that it arrived in your Ledger wallet, then start moving over funds. But do that every single time you try to make a transaction in cryptocurrency. Send a test transaction. I still do it. It's been a decade now that I have been sending crypto transactions, and I still send test transactions. So, Raggedy Sue, if you go about it that way, you are in a very good place. You're going to be safe. Walfraham, question. You said that we should buy a hardware wallet for our XRP. My husband doesn't want me to spend the money and keep ours in Coinbase. Are we up a creek? Walfraham, no. You're not up a creek. And I very much view things in a way of, don't go buying a hardware wallet that costs $60 if you've only got $50 of crypto. Keep your $50 in Coinbase. With the fears of centralized exchanges, Walfraham, you may be denied access to your funds immediately. So something could happen. You could lose your password, something like that. Someone could try to access your account, and so Coinbase locks it in order to protect you. Coinbase could be hacked, and you could lose access to your funds for a short time. Things like that. Someone could call you and maybe trick you into giving your Coinbase password over. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, you're not in danger being on a centralized exchange. Just in the same way that you having $100 in a bank account at Wells Fargo, you're not in danger. You just need to remember that if you are not the self-custodian of it, it's technically theirs. Technically. Not your keys, not your crypto. And so if your cryptocurrency is sitting on Coinbase, Coinbase is in charge of keeping it safe. If Coinbase screws up, well, you're suffering as well. I do not worry about keeping money on Coinbase or keeping money on Gemini or keeping money on Kraken, keeping money on Uphold. I don't worry about it. What I do is I just keep in mind what is spending money, what is saving money. I keep spending money in the centralized exchange. Think about it this way. You don't walk around with $1 million in your wallet. You walk around with the amount of money that you may need that day. View centralized exchanges, view software wallets as that. They are your walking around money. They're the money you might spend that day. If it's long-term savings, if it's going to be in a substantial amount of money, I do highly recommend that you start getting it over to a hardware wallet where you are the custodian of it. You are then the bank. You are your bank at that point in time. No one can stop you from sending your money. No one can stop you from accessing it. If you want to send that money to Iran. Congratulations, you can. Should you? No, don't do it, but you can. And so that's that degree of freedom. That is where it does get to that ideological point behind all of this, where we are becoming the custodians of our future. We're becoming the owners legitimately for the first time. Because when it comes down to it, your money in the bank is the bank's money. It's not really your money. You have been granted the privilege of having access to it. But if the bank says, hey, we don't like where you're trying to send it, guess what? They're just not going to send it there. And so do not worry. Don't go, harassing the hubby. I understand where he's coming from. It is dollars, and it's dollars that could be going towards more cryptocurrency. It's dollars that could be going to other stuff. Just keep in mind, essentially, what's happening. You are keeping your funds in the bank. That bank is just known as Coinbase. Raggedy Sue, is there any credence to the claim that we need to form an LLC and move our XRP to Web3 wallets? Raggedy Sue, none at all. Absolutely zero. I've seen those types of things going around. I think they're just a way of selling people LLC services and crappy Web3 wallets. That's what I think they are. I think that people have just figured out that if they keep telling folks that you need to sign up for this wallet or you're not going to be a part of the new XRP boom and your XRP is not going to be worth as much. If people say crap like that, they are just flat out lying. So Raggedy Sue, do not worry about that. Now, I will say, absolutely, Raggedy Sue, there are probably advantages to having an LLC. You get to take advantage of corporate taxation laws. You get to take advantage of those different structures. There are benefits there, but they're not required. And that part is not. No. And so do not worry, Raggedy Sue. Is there a way to probably incorporate and maybe limit liability or limit taxation in the future? I bet so. I bet there is. But this is not going to hold you back. It's not going to stop you from being able to sell your XRP or to profit from it. No. So please do not worry on that one. Anakin, that's what I love about Tangum. It's not connected to anything, no plug or anything. Yep. Epicenter, Deborah, what's your opinion about the sentiment? The Clarity Act should just get passed and the crypto companies should work to make changes later. Deborah, that's where it's tough for me because the impatient part of me says exactly that. The impatient part of me says, I'll take the short-term benefits. The short-term benefits of the Clarity Act passing in any form or fashion is that the market's going to boom and we're going to start heading back up. That is potentially a delusional standpoint, but I understand that there's a part of me that feels that way. It's like, hey, just make it happen. We'll work on it in the future. They can't stop us. I do, though, think, Deborah, that it's a slippery slope. If we start bending the knee to the old system, we start bending the knee to these major banks, I have a feeling we're going to get stuck in a cycle of continually bending the knee. And so I think, Deborah, this is one where we can't really be the kid on the basketball court that just says, I'm taking the ball, I'm going home, we're not going to play anymore. We can't do that. We lose in that scenario as well. We massively delay this progress in that scenario. But we also can't let the banks make all the rules. And so it's a very, very difficult situation, Deborah, because there are certain red lines that I don't think should be allowed. When it comes down to it, we have got to have the ability to earn an interest off of actively managed stable coins and cryptocurrency. We have to. If they cut that part, I have a feeling that the crypto community really needs, the crypto lobby and the crypto companies need to say, hey, we're popping the ball. We're not willing to play. But when it does come to the compromise regarding stablecoin issuers being able to offer interest, I believe that's an acceptable short-term compromise. It's not the long term, and it can't stay that way forever, I don't think. But in all honesty, it's doable. It could be worked with, it could be managed. And so for me, Deborah, there are those red lines. Right now, with what we're hearing, it looks like issuers are not going to be able to offer interest. That may, in all honesty, work out positively in the short term. And so what that means is that Tether and USDC can't offer some kind of interest. Inactive funds sitting inside of an account doing absolutely nothing, being used to generate no value, being used to generate no growth, can't receive interest. Okay, that is a limitation that keeps us from being able to essentially have the same idea as a savings account on the crypto side in the short term, but it does not keep us from being able to start becoming the banks. We are still then able to actively become the banks. We're able to utilize our capital to start earning the interest that previously the banking system was. Is it everything we want? No. But is it an acceptable compromise in the short term? I think so. And so for me, Deborah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And remember, we always have to come back to the conversation. And we always have to remember that there is validity in the bank's argument. They are not lying. It could potentially, and it will eventually destroy the banking system. It will eventually bankrupt them. And it could, and most likely will, at some point in time, result in a collapse of what we view as the old or the traditional U.S. financial system. That's true. The mass fleeing of dollars from these banks and over to the blockchain is going to create a liquidity crisis in the banking system. It's accurate. They're not lying. Now, they are fear-mongering the absolute heck out of it, but they're not lying. And so we also have to remember those things, that there's a lot more nuance to all of this than we would like. I personally am happy to watch the antiquated banking system collapse, but I'm very aware that a lot of people that don't deserve it are going to suffer on account of that. All right. Just like all the hack scammers saying you need to open your QFS accounts ASAP. Absolutely, guys. Those are all scams. They're all scams. There's not a single one that is real. And so, guys, please don't fall for that stuff. You have got it right. If you own your crypto and your crypto is currently sitting in your custodianship, you own the keys and you understand how to keep those keys safe, you are winning and you do not need to do anything more. You don't. You've got it. You've won. You've succeeded. And that's it. It really is. The second that you have gotten that crypto over to a hardware wallet that you are the custodian of and you know how to keep safe, sleep easy at night. You have no more way to control this. At that point, it is outside of our hands. It's outside of mine. It's outside of all of ours. Raggedy Sue, thank you so much for taking the time to answer all my questions. My pleasure, Sue. My pleasure. Frank, every time you deposit money in a bank, technically it's the bank's. Yep. So if there's a bailout, your deposit is gone. No, absolutely true. Absolutely true. The sentiment, not your keys, not your crypto, is a statement that we should have been saying in the old system since 1970s. Honestly, probably even further than that. Not your keys, not your money. When you put the money into the bank, do they give you the keys to the vault? Nope, they don't. And that means it's not actually yours. It's the bank's. And if the bank decides you're allowed to have it, then you're allowed to have it. It's a privilege, not a right. Remember, there's a big difference between privileges and rights. Privileges can be taken away. Rights cannot be taken away. You do not have the right to your money. You have the privilege to access it. Frank, I'm not sure who started calling blockchain technically the QFS. QFS equals blockchain. This is why people don't trust. There's so much bad information out there. If I could go back and find whoever confused everyone so much on that front, I would owe the curse jar a lot of money, because Frank, you're entirely correct. It just created confusion, and that was it. It's just confusion, and it's confusion that people benefited from. And they benefited from that confusion. They did it on purpose, and it has burnt so many people who should have been in some of the best positions ever. There are people who had hundreds of thousands of XRP who lost it through all of the shenanigans with QFS wallets. And those people with hundreds of thousands of XRP, those are multimillionaires that had that stolen from them because of that crap. I get very upset about that one. And it just created confusion. It's not that QFS is like a terrible term for it. It just created confusion. It's a blockchain wallet. It's a Web3 wallet. It's a QFS wallet. It's just confusion. And that confusion creates situations where errors are made. That's why, and again, that's why they question every time you want to withdraw a large amount of money. Yep. No, when it comes down to it, if it's my money, it's my money. If I want to waste it, if I want to lose it, if I want to spend it on whatever the heck dumb idea I want to spend it on, I believe I have the right to do so. I don't believe that anyone has a right to tell me how I can or cannot spend my own money. And luckily, we're very, very close to a world where no one will be able to. They'll be able to go through and judge me for making bad decisions spending my money, but they won't be able to stop me. Charlene, time check from my Trish. That's your way of saying someone is long-winded today. Absolutely, and she is totally correct. We're at an hour and 12 minutes, and I missed a lot of articles. I got off on a lot of tangents today, but I do need to run off. And so thank you guys so much for joining me today. Thank you, Trish, for sticking with us. And I loved the questions today, folks. That was awesome. Lots of really, really fun conversations, and there's so much more to dig into on all these fronts. And so we will start digging again on all of this on Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back over here. And also, I'm 99% positive that when I click the end stream button today, that this video is going to be available in recorded fashion. And so we will find out in just a few seconds, but I'm feeling good about it. So love you guys. See you soon.